Is the next move for Bitcoin to break below 40,000? Well, it looks like it very well could be, and that's what we're going to take a look at right now. First of all, we have Bitcoin. We're going to step out just a little bit and talk about the fantastic run up it has had since November of last year, because I want to give us some perspective in where we are and where we could be headed. In November of last year, we were down around 16,000. We are currently at about 41,000. That's 2.5 times increase since our lows back in November and December of last year. And Bitcoin has been doing nothing but running up. It did have some ups and downs, some natural breathing in and out of the market as it went up toward the end of last year, but starting from October to December has been a skyrocket move in Bitcoin, and we actually made some highs around 49,000 recently in January once the ETFs for Bitcoin were approved. Now, this is the channel we've kind of been holding since December. If you look at this channel right here on the daily, we grinded up with some higher highs and lower lows, even in starting in December. And we have held that channel fairly well, other than popping out of the top of it when Bitcoin started making a run a few days before the ETFs were approved. And then it made its high of 49,000 roughly after the ETFs were approved. Now, people were saying, those that are smarter than me and know more about crypto than me, were saying around December, the end of December and the beginning of January, that if the ETFs did get approved, they expected a pop up to about 48,000 or so, but that we were not going to be able to break 50,000 on this run up and hold it. And turns out they were completely correct, as we made our big run at 49,000 and then wicked down immediately later that day, and have wicked down all the way down almost to 40,000. We haven't quite tagged 40,000. My chart is showing a low of 40,258, but it looks like we will be tagging 40,000 soon. And over the last few days, I had been talking about Bitcoin giving up this lower channel. There were really two options for me. One is the one we are experiencing now, and that was this fall out of the channel and almost straight down, which we've seen the last day and a half. The other was this option of going up to 44.5 or 45 and then breaking down below to about 40,000 and tagging 40,000. And then I was just going to wait and see what the market was going to do at 40,000. Well, we got scenario one. Over the last day and a half, we have broken this upward channel and we have almost tagged 40,000. And I've been thinking we would. I had said several days in a row that I thought we would hit 40,000 before we would hit 47,000. And that looks like that is going to be the case. Now, since we have sunk down to around 40,000, we haven't tagged it right on the dot yet. You can see we have bought up and have moved higher this day. It's very interesting how well this trend line is still holding, though. Almost the top of today was the bottom of that trend line. And that's just kind of interesting of how important this current trend line is, drawn since the beginning of December. We have a couple of options here. All of them are, I think, equally could happen, but all of them I do think will lead us below 40,000. Okay, one is that this is the bounce we're going to get, the one we're experiencing today, and we're going to go ahead and go sub 40,000 here soon. The other is we could actually break back up into this channel, because Bitcoin is holding this channel well and spend a great deal of time into it, and we could go ahead and see that bounce to 44, 45,000 before coming back down to 40. The other is, I'm not sure I mentioned it, we just continue to drop and go ahead and break this 40. I think we're so close to the 40 now that, again, I will say, as I was saying earlier, I think we're going to tag 40,000 before we hit 48,000. I'm kind of the opinion now that we're going to break below 40,000 before we hit 45. That's kind of my feeling of where we're headed with Bitcoin. I feel like we're going to be aiming down and that we could be looking to fall into this range of 38 to 40,000. That's not terrible if that happens. It does mean that we're going to have to wait and put on our patience pants, as I call them, before we're going to experience any newer highs in Bitcoin. But there are some calling for us to actually get down into this 34 to 38,000 level. One good follow who I follow on Twitter, if you want to also follow him, his name is Justin Bennett. He covers Forex a lot. That's where his bread and butter is. But he also does do crypto because crypto is popular. He's noticed that he gets a lot more engagement on his crypto post than he does his Forex, but he makes his bread and butter in Forex. But what I like about him is he's not someone who's just going to tell you Bitcoin's going to moon, your coin's going to moon, it's going to 10x in the next month. He's not about that nonsense. He's more like me, and he is the one that's calling for, well, he was calling for on this post back in December 7th for us to hit a high of 48,000 and then break down. And that's exactly what has happened. He called it on the 7th of December before it did happen. And that's what has happened. We hit a high 48,000 and we have broken down. His post earlier today was, let me back up, and you can go follow him if you want to see this all real time as well. His post here was, yes, that after we had broken out toward the bottom and hit this 41,000 level, which that is basically right around here, and he was calling for this level because it's the bottom. You can see if I expand, it's the bottom of several of these days, the bottom of that day, the bottom of that day, the bottom of that day, bottom of that day, blah, 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 blah. So he was saying, look, if we get into this level, there's not much going to hold us to keep from falling to 38. And that kind of appears like where we're going to go. If I had to guess, I do think we are going to tag 38,000. Give him a follow if you're interested. And I think he's right. And this trend line has held and kind of shown us that so far he is right, that we are kind of ranging in this area right now. We still, like I said, could go back up and down, but I got to tell you, I think 38,000 is here in the works for us in Bitcoin before much too longer. And I do think 38,000 is in the works before 45 and certainly before 48,000 is. That's why I wanted to show you the big picture, because you've got to understand the big picture. Even if we fall down into here, the 34 to 38,000 level, where we see a bunch of constructive price action over November, October, and November, even if we fall here, that's not bad. It still sets us up very nicely for some more moves upwards to potentially break 50,000 over the next few months and get on, excuse me, get on up to the 50,000 range, which we all want to see with Bitcoin. But we've had just such a fantastic rise in crypto and the markets that it just seems like we're going to have to give back some of that before we can base higher. Another clue is, let's look at the total market cap for crypto. It's doing what Bitcoin has done, and that is we had a nice churning upwards, this nice gradual channels going up. And over the last few days, the total market cap for crypto has fallen below that trend line. Generally, when you see a trend line that has held that well, it generally breaks once it falls below. And that would mean that crypto value overall is just going to fall, and that's because there's going to be a drop in the price of Bitcoin. So there's several clues pointing toward us falling lower in Bitcoin. I cannot guarantee that we will. We might just find out this is a fake, and we might come back up into this channel, break up here, do some dancing around 45,000 and go higher. But there's really just no reason for us to do that. There's no optimism for us to do that right now. Not that anybody's negative on crypto, it's just kind of the optimism was used up over October, November, and December run up to a good, fantastic end of year. Looking forward to the approvals of the ETFs, and now people are just taking profit, moving money to altcoin, whatever you want to call it, moving money into the ETFs. Whatever's happening here is just a general giving back of the market, and it's a retracement, a correction, a pullback. Doesn't matter what you want to call it. As long as we stay above 32, 34,000, it's 100% constructive price action to set us up for higher highs later this year. You can't expect Bitcoin just to fly up to 100,000 as soon as we'd like. This is perfectly natural. Nice highs we've made. Come back, perhaps hit this 38, maybe even lower. Settle in here for a while, and then hopefully break on out. Maybe around the halving, after the halving of Bitcoin coming up in April, or maybe just later on in the year. Either way, I do think this is our next area for Bitcoin over the next few days/weeks. Even if we do bounce up, don't let it fool you. Bitcoin's not going to make higher highs in this run until it can steadily hold above 40,000. And I don't mean a little peak above 40,000 and back down. That might be there just to fool you. I'm saying several days closing above 45,000. 45,000 is the key level. We've got to close above 45,000 several days in a row and base there before we have any hope of breaking higher. If we don't see us closing above 45,000 and basing there a few days, it's not going to happen, and we're going to range or continue down. And my guess is over the next little while, we're going to gradually fall down into the 38,000 level. That's my guess. We'll see if it comes true. I am pro crypto, by the way, pro Bitcoin, by the way. I think 2024 is going to be a good year. I do expect us to break 50,000 in 2024. So this is not a negative Nelly anti-crypto video. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is a gradual fall down below 40,000. All right, I'll keep you updated. Be sure to check back in. We'll watch the price together. Be careful out there trading. Be safe. Talk to you later.